no signatures were needed. Those 4 words were all Horizon 12 analysts remembered when they realized they'd uncovered a covert war pact hours before deployment. 15,000 soldiers, 3 forward bases, 120 armor units, all hidden behind encrypted transmissions. Before dawn broke over Kyiv, the Emergency Council had 15 minutes to decide if they would wait, negotiate, or strike. This was diplomacy erased in real time, and it began with that single, unsigned agreement. Hours before sunrise over Pyongyang, encrypted channels whispered a promise. 15,000 elite soldiers prepared to move without a treaty, without a trace. The signal flickered through Moscow's secure relay at 3:27 local time, passing less than 6 minutes later into a buried command hub outside Vladivostok. The message carried no formal acknowledgement, no digital watermark, only a code block the Horizon 12 Intercept team would later translate into human language. October 2nd, 2025. Deployment authorized. No signatures were needed. That phrase alone told Ukrainian analysts what they were dealing with: a hidden alliance outside conventional law, rushing toward activation. The unrecorded agreement joined 2 governments in a mission they refused to name. On paper, no alliance existed. In the data stream, it was unmistakable. Russia promised fuel, precision munitions, and access to what the encrypted log called Grade A strategic weapons. In return, Pyongyang would deliver 15,000 personnel, drawn from its expeditionary regiments, along with 120 armored vehicles and 80 artillery systems configured for cross-border synchronization. The pattern revealed a joint task force designed to appear Russian while executing North Korean planned maneuvers deeper along the Kursk-Belgorod frontier, less than 40 kilometers from Ukraine's border. The proximity alone triggered alarms inside Kyiv's monitoring division. North Korean forces operating that close meant a potential multi-front shift in days, not months. Grade A strategic weapons was an unfamiliar classification in Ukrainian intelligence. Analysts interpreted it as short-range, high-yield platforms suited for battlefield saturation, the kind that could neutralize entire brigades before ground contact. If those weapons reached active configuration, every Ukrainian defense planner knew diplomacy would have hours to react, not weeks. Inside the Horizon 12 facility, servers processed intercepted chatter, too fragmented for normal translation. But when analysts reconstructed packet sequences, they found coordinates forming an unmistakable offensive grid. Lines of numbers traced a corridor running from Suja Ridge through Zelenk to the Novoplasia outpost, 3 strategic choke points Russia had used for troop logistics earlier in the war. Whoever wrote those coordinates wasn't rehearsing. They were staging. That was when the phrase, "no signatures were needed," reappeared, this time as a command flag inside the decryption interface. To Kyiv, it became shorthand for imminent action. Within minutes, every analyst and field operative understood. Authorization had shifted from diplomacy to execution. Then came the silence. Pyongyang's secure link terminated mid-sequence, returning an error string that its engineers had never encountered before. Radio operators confirmed that the transmitter grid powering their outbound channel went dark simultaneously across 3 relay frequencies. To Ukrainian intelligence, that blackout confirmed authenticity. Disinformation channels normally stayed noisy during covert events. Silence meant the real network had gone offline by deliberate order. Horizon 12 logged it at 4:14, noting the timing down to the second. In Kyiv's observation room, the atmosphere turned clinical. Spectral maps rolled across every wall display, layered with new data streams from orbital arrays and human reconnaissance. No one raised their voice. Analysts tracked field numbers, troop counts, armor ratios, battery intervals, feeding models designed to predict how soon the deployment would breach range. A few engineers described the Intercept file as an earthquake on a USB drive. The night staff knew the metaphor fit. The packet contained evidence of an undeclared invasion built from mathematical precision rather than open aggression. Decision briefs circulated within minutes. Authority for the Pact had been traced to a joint intelligence directive between Moscow's General Staff and a Pyongyang Operations Bureau under its strategic department. The unsigned nature let each side claim plausible denial. But within Ukraine, it marked a definitive trigger for preemptive defense. If acknowledged, it meant open war. If ignored, it meant being surrounded by dawn. Analysts filed it under one classification: shadow conflict initiation. By the briefing's end, Ukraine's leadership regarded the intercept not as rumor, but as proof that warfare had mutated again. Engagement would begin not with artillery, but with algorithms guiding every defensive node from cloud-based command servers. Data replaced negotiations, precision outpaced politics, and the next 24 hours would decide survival on both sides. By the next dawn, those whispered coordinates would become the target grid for the first algorithmic strike in modern warfare. When Kiev's emergency council convened, they had 15 minutes, 3 options, and data showing 15,000 enemy soldiers assembling in real time. Every display in the chamber reflected the same truth: fortified movements near Suja Ridge, Zelenk, and Novoplesia, the newly identified sectors that Horizon 12 had reconstructed from intercepted fragments. Each zone was less than 40 kilometers from Ukraine's border. The decoded heat maps didn't lie. Red clusters represented armored carriers forming perimeter lines, while mobile artillery positioned along low terrain designed to conceal radar signatures. Even without satellite imaging, the data density confirmed it was no exercise. Horizon 12 analysts explained that the intercepted packets defined an offensive geography. The coordinates aligned to defensive ridges protecting access to Belgorod, but the troop concentration stretched too wide for a mere training maneuver. Inside the council chamber, the digital map pulsed with markers labeled Active Asset Confirmed. Decision makers studied troop ratios, infantry, armored regiments, heavy guns, and knew the formation pointed toward cross-border incursion. Verification through standard diplomatic channels could take hours. They had less than 15 minutes before those clustered icons reached live fire readiness. The window for deliberation was narrower than the range of one artillery volley. The Council's dilemma reduced to 3 unforgiving choices: wait and verify, hoping the movement stalled under international pressure; appeal to the United Nations, risking that bureaucracy would delay action until the columns were already across the line; or strike first, acknowledging that an unsigned intelligence packet might hold their only chance at survival. Each path came with irreversible consequences. Waiting risked annihilation. Diplomacy risked paralysis. Acting meant gambling the nation's credibility on information gathered through silent algorithms instead of embassies. The clock above the wall ticked in measured intervals. 1 minute lost meant 10 kilometers gained on the encroaching grid. Across the room, encrypted feeds displayed low-light footage of armor rolling through fog under radar silence. The images were grainy but coherent enough to convince seasoned commanders that the offensive had begun. Diplomats attempted last-minute calls through Swiss intermediaries, yet the North Korean line remained unreachable, and Moscow's response came as standard denial. Every unanswered message deepened the stillness. Commanders whispered about the doomsday coordinates, a phrase born from their data analysts. Each coordinate represented a point so precisely targeted that if activated simultaneously, Ukraine's eastern flank could collapse in less than 2 hours. The phrase filtered through the room like an alarm wrapped in code. They scrutinized the digital dossier, now known among the intelligence team as the earthquake on a USB drive. Within its compressed packets lay reconnaissance, energy signatures, communication headers, and positional metadata tighter and more complete than any human report. That file carried more decisive information than weeks of field intelligence gathered through conventional routes. Yet none of it carried signatures or verification seals. Acting on it meant committing the armed forces to offensive engagement based on unseen algorithms. The council chair asked for dissenting opinions. None were spoken. Everyone in that room had arrived at the same grim arithmetic. If their calculation was wrong, they would ignite a global crisis. If they delayed, there might not be another chance to decide. The countdown continued. Analysts predicted 4 minutes until enemy batteries reached firing position. With no diplomatic verification inbound, the council initiated contingency briefings. 90 seconds passed without a word before approval signatures appeared on the secure board under the codename Project Ghost Wings. The final command read simply, "Strike first." Authorization time stamped at 5:41 UTC. Servers uploaded the coordinates to launch modules already primed for drone dispersion. The order released across encrypted networks designed to bypass conventional flight control. Project Ghostwings activated not as retaliation, but as survival. That single decision ended the debate between hesitation and action. Diplomacy still drafting memos would arrive too late. In modern warfare, evidence living inside an algorithm could decide the fate of nations before daylight. Kiev had chosen speed over ceremony, proof over protocol. Within minutes, the first wave of autonomous drones launched into the night, signaling a new era of defense where innovation became the only weapon able to erase entire divisions before they ever crossed the border. The unsigned pact and its intercepted coordinates forced Ukraine to act before the world even knew it was at risk. Modern wars now begin not with rockets, but with sequences of code that decide life or extinction in seconds. Horizon 12's Intercept and the Ghostwings response proved that intelligence has replaced negotiation. Each new algorithm shortens the space between discovery and destruction. The next signal intercepted may not allow even 15 minutes of debate. Somewhere, encrypted agreements might already exist, unseen and unacknowledged, quietly setting the stage for conflicts that will ignite before diplomats even wake.